Well, hey, Waterline. This is Ericka Andersen coming at you today with another Facebook Live, or this isn't Facebook Live, just another regular interview. Sorry, guys, I'm used to doing Facebook Live. But yeah, we have another interview for you that we wanted to share. Some of you were at church this past week. You heard a little bit from John Jurkash, who is a member of our church and is with us today. And he spoke a little bit about being a police officer and his faith. And so we would just wanted to go a little bit more in depth with that. So thank you, John, for giving us another little bit more of your time.
Yeah, no problem. Glad I could do the interview and glad I can elaborate on some of my story a little bit.
Yeah, so I guess I'll just start off with how long have you been a police officer?
So I've been in law enforcement. I'm coming up on, in about a month, I'll hit year number 8.
Okay. And was that sort of your first major job? Did you go directly from high school or college to doing that?
Yeah, so I had an interesting journey, just like most people do when they go to college. I started off and I wanted to be a pediatrician. And then I took my first college biology course and barely passed. So I realized that probably wouldn't be good for the medical field. And then after that, I was going to school to be a high school history teacher. And same thing, I just became pretty discouraged and pretty frustrated with my student teaching. So I realized that I take things very personally. So that would have been a struggle for me. And then I actually went in I was at that point in college where I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my life, and I was getting a pretty expensive education. So I figured I needed to get that squared away. And I actually went to a FBI recruiting luncheon where it just kind of everything clicked. And I spoke to an alumni from my college who was in the FBI, and he said the best thing that I could do is graduate and then try to get into local law enforcement. So, right after I graduated from Wabash College in 2012, I got a job with the Indiana State Police for a section that they have in downtown Indianapolis, and I worked there for 2 years. And then after I worked there for 2 years, I actually attended the Indiana Law Enforcement Academy. And my roommate there was a Whitestown police officer. And he had a brand new truck and all the coolest toys and a much cooler uniform than I did. And I was just kind of like, well, how do I get onto that place? And it just sounded like Whitestown was kind of this up and coming place to be. And lo and behold, 2 years after we went to the academy, he recruited me, and I got hired on with Whitestown in 2014, and I really haven't looked back since. And I've just had some blessed and amazing opportunities there, with it being such a fast growing town. And
Mhm.
and with that, I hope I'm fortunate enough to end my career there. Now that I am there, I don't have any intentions of going anywhere else. It's just a great department and a great community.
So, thank you for sharing the history of that. And I can see why it's something that you really like to do. But being a police officer is really one of the scariest jobs in the world. How do you handle the fear in some of those unknown situations?
Yeah, I think the world kind of gets to see a fraction of some of the stuff that we deal with in those unknowns, and it's definitely something that can be overwhelming. We're actually having law enforcement as a whole we're having some of the hardest recruiting um, time right now, just trying to get young new people to join the field of law enforcement, just because of kind of uh, the public perception of law enforcement right now. And a
Hmm.
big part of that is fear. People are afraid of getting in. We see a lot of people who are somewhat vested who are getting out of law enforcement because that fear just kind of takes them over with, kind of the animosity and that hate that's going on right now. And really, a lot of the people that I know and me personally, that relationship with God and that trust in Jesus, that goes hand in hand with our job. And I feel like the stronger faith you have, it just makes those unknown and scary situations a lot easier to handle. When you
Mm.
don't have that faith and that trust that God's going to be there with you, and he's going to give you all the tools necessary. And, if by some chance it does go, the worst route possible, that in the end, he is going to bring you home as well. So, once I kind of established a relationship with God and with Jesus, and gave my life up to that and trusted in my faith, that's something that it really is kind of just at the back of my head. I know that I have the tools and the skills, and God's put me where I am, and I'm just gonna go back to being at Whitestown. God has put me with some amazing coworkers. He's put me in a town where I have some amazing resources, and that's all his plan. That's not anybody else's. And because of that, I just have so much more comfort and strength in doing what I do, because I know the people that I work with and the community I serve, they ultimately support me. And I know a lot of my coworkers who have a strong relationship with God and with Jesus. They feel the exact same way, and it just makes us do our job that much better.
How does it feel? We know that it's the situation where, a smaller number of people have sort of given a bad reputation to law enforcement in some ways. And so how does it feel to you to sort of see some of, like, yourself and your colleagues, some of your colleagues portrayed in a negative way? And how do you deal with that, mentally, and just as you go to work every day?
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, especially just this last summer. I mean, it really peaked, um, and anxiety and stress and just that worry can really kind of creep up on you. And the bottom line is that that's the devil at work, in my opinion, and in my true belief is that that's the devil at work. He is working diligently to sow those seeds of distrust and that hate and fear between the public and the police. And with that being said, evil is everywhere. It's, for all the people who may be watching this, I'm sure they can look in their own jobs, whatever that profession may be, the medical field, schools, teachers, anywhere. I mean, evil is there, and it comes in different shapes and forms. And the unfortunate truth is that, we don't have a net in any of our jobs to kind of seed out that evil. People put on a good face, evil puts on a good face, and it sows itself into our different professions and our different corners of life. And the very sad and unfortunate truth is that sinful people and evil people do weed themselves into the law enforcement field. And it's something that it brings a pain to me and myself and my coworkers. That's something that we go to work every day, and it's our job to basically stand that line between criminals and the regular good citizens that live in my town. And I know every police officer across the nation, for the most part, that's their goal, that's their job, is to stand between that line of good and evil, and hold that line and defend it. And we all really do take it personally when we see that a wolf is hiding amongst the
Mhm.
sheepdogs, so to speak. I know that's a term we kind of get thrown around in the law enforcement field, is they call us the sheepdog. Um, and wolves sneak their way into that as well. And I think the real good cops, you're starting to see this across the country. They're taking it more personally than everybody, and they're making that diligent effort to weed out and get rid of the evil ones that do slip through the cracks. And like I said, it really is just a disappointment and a sad truth. But until we can stand together and fight against evil, it's going to seep its way through every crack and in every profession and every field that we have. And law enforcement is no exception to that. So it's one of the sadder truths. But all you have to do is really look outside. There's a conscious effort to portray law enforcement in a very negative light right now. And I think if you look outside of that and you actually look and see the good, it's there, and it's really much stronger and much prevalent than I think people realize. We live in a culture and a society where negative media and the negative news, that's what sells. And, people get attracted to that. And it's pretty much it's like a cyclone. It sucks you in, and, you think everybody's that way, but we're really not. And that's kind of my goal. And I know a lot of my department members' goals is to just, if we can reestablish that trust with just one person every day, then we're going to help get through that. We're going to help fight that battle, and we're going to help get through to the public that, we are the good guys, and we are there to help, and we are there to serve. So it's a constant battle, and we're going to be fighting it till the end of time.
Have you felt just over the summer and things, like, have you personally really felt like an increased level of disrespect or animosity towards you personally?
No, me personally, like I said before, I am extremely blessed, and we just have a phenomenal support in our community. Um, and the community has made a great effort. We've had some social justice rallies that went really well, and the police walked hand in hand with the people involved just in the planning and the organization, and telling people that we are there to hear those voices, and we are there to grow as a community. um, it's been more on a broader scale that I've felt just that hate and animosity. I've had to kind of purge myself off social media because for a while it got pretty bad, and it just seemed like the unfortunate truth is I've had to remove some people from my life,
Mm.
acquaintances and friends, and just because they were pretty much trying to plant those seeds of evil and just the hate that they were preaching and spewing. I took that very personally. So I just, it was a conscious decision that those people are toxic. And, if they knew me, which they should, anyone who knows me as a person knows, that I'm a good person at my core, and I reflect that in my job. So anyone who has chosen to kind of link me in with, just that general narrative that all cops are evil and all cops are bad, and we're all serving an agenda. They're just kind of basically giving into the lie that the devil is trying to spread. So it has taken its effect on me. I've had to kind of put some distance between some family members as well, who have, um, for lack of a better word, attacked me and my profession. And I use my platform both on social media and as a captain with my current law enforcement agency to try and educate people. When there's these videos going, that it's a 10-second clip from a 30-minute video where people will post that and try and skew the narrative. I try to do my best to explain maybe why certain things happened, and I think that God has put me in the place that I'm at to try and help educate people. And um, you really start to see that evil, like I said, kind of seep through. Like I said, I've had family members who, they've kind of put some stuff on social media or out in different platforms, and I've tried to educate them and say, this might be why that happened. When they're asking, why would something like this ever even happen? And I'm trying to educate them from a law enforcement perspective, and then it just turns into nasty kind of comments against me. And to see that from my own family, it is um, it's very disappointing and disheartening. But that's just them giving into the lie, and not
Mhm.
not seeing things for what they really are. So
Yeah. Well, what would be, I guess, the last thing that you might want to say, about why you do what you do and why you're proud of what you do?
yeah, I think this might be probably kind of the cheesy answer. I know you ask a lot of people why they went into law enforcement, and the kind of the standard answer you get across the board is we want to help people, and that really is the truth. I got into this job because I looked into other jobs where I wanted to serve and I wanted to help others, and for whatever reason, God led me away from those professions. Like I said, my college journey kind of was a roller coaster, and then law enforcement was placed in front of me as part of that plan. And that's part of it too, is that service. Part of the police motto is to serve and protect. And on top of the protection part, we have a duty to serve others in the community, at large. And I really thoroughly enjoy that. I enjoy going to solve problems for people who can't solve them for themselves. They may be having the worst day of their life, and being able to, I spoke about this a little bit on Sunday, but being that light in the darkness for them. I've actually had quite a few people who, in my interactions with them, maybe they have gone to jail, or, maybe they have gotten a citation, or maybe it's been one of those interactions with law enforcement that in their eyes ended on a negative light, but I was able to get them to understand why it was happening, through a little bit of patience and, explanation. And I've actually had people who I've taken to jail thank me, which is kind of I think it's a foreign concept, but when you kind of can get through to people and explain to them, why things are illegal, or why things are against the law, and why things are considered wrong, um, you know, it really kind of puts that perspective on. And that's just that's something that I love doing. I love being able to help people problem solve, whether that's whatever way, shape, or form that is. And I'm going to continue to do that at whatever level I can, whether, I'm on the road, or whether I'm in the administrative division and I'm trying to better my officers to do that better. Um, and I guess the last thing that I would really just kind of like to say to any parents or any families that are watching. One thing that with this distrust that's going on, one thing that we see that I can tell you probably every single cop hates is that, parents will see police officers out and about, and they will tell their kids, if you're bad, they're going to take you to jail. And it creates
Mm.
that distrust at such a young age. And it makes kids scared to come and talk to us. And if I could just, like I said, kind of bend those ears, please don't do that to your kids, because it creates that fear in us. And we want them to come to us if they're lost, or they need help, or something happens and, they don't know what to do. We want them to see law enforcement as the help and the good guys. And just those little comments, while they may be funny, it really can create that distrust and that fear at a young age. So any families and parents that may be listening or watching, I just really ask that, you paint us in that good light, so that they know if there really is an emergency or a serious situation, they can come to us for help.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've never heard anyone make that point before. So
Yeah.
I think that's a good one to remember. I hadn't used that yet, but I definitely won't. Well, thank you, John. Thank you for sharing so honestly. I think it's so good to get everyone's story, everyone's perspective, especially when we're in such a contentious time. So we really appreciate you sharing your story and just how things are going in your world as a part of law enforcement.
Of course. I'm